Module 8. Topics covered in this module are related to Business Engagement Knowledge Domain, which encompasses 7.6% of the questions on the CRC exam. The information in this module is organized into 2 lessons: 1. Employer Responsibilities and Resources, and 2. Employment Selection and Retention, Diversity and Marketing Strategies. The CRC exam includes 2 major sections: Rehabilitation and Disability and Counseling. The Rehabilitation and Disability section, by the completion of this model, you will be able to provide guidance for employers to provide appropriate job accommodations for their employees with disabilities, provide consultation and training to employers and businesses concerning disability concepts, best practices, and applicable laws, provide guidance to employers and businesses as related to hiring and retaining individuals with disabilities, recognize, describe, and implement business-focused strategies, techniques, and terminology that will help improve employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities, implement work-based learning and training methods to provide guidance to employers to help them create a pipeline for employing individuals with disabilities, and differentiate the dual customer role, such as employer and person with a disability. There are no counseling learning objectives for this topic. The learning objectives and topics covered were generated based on information provided on the CRCC website. Module 8.1, Employer Responsibilities and Resources. Topics covered in this review are assisting employers with job accommodation issues for their employees with disabilities, the consultation process with employers related to management of disability issues in the workplace, educating employers on disability-related issues, and educating and supporting employees on disability-related employment issues. Assisting employers with job accommodation issues for their employees with disabilities. As many employers are not trained on job accommodations, laws, and procedures, rehabilitation counselors may need to explain workplace needs and employee rights to employers. The most common topics needed to be discussed with employers are accommodation. When a person's workplace needs to be customized to meet their needs, employers must provide accommodations to meet those needs. Modification. When an individual needs to perform a job task in a method that is not typical of how the job task is performed, employers must agree on modification techniques that allow the individual to perform the job task. Job restructuring. When an individual is unable to perform certain responsibilities of a specific job, an employer may need to restructure the responsibilities of the job position to remove responsibilities the individual cannot perform, such as an individual with severe hearing impairment can work as a receptionist and manage computer scheduling, billing, emails, etc., but cannot answer incoming phone calls. Their job would be restructured to remove answering phone calls from the job responsibilities. And assistive technology. When an individual needs an item, equipment, technology, software, or any other device that helps overcome existing functional limitations, an employer will need to allow the use of assistive technology and make any necessary accommodations or modifications to physical job spaces or task procedures to incorporate the assistive technology device. Consultation process with employers related to management of disability issues in the workplace. There are 3 main types of consulting services a counselor can offer to consumers searching for employment. 1. A recruitment service, designed to help an employer locate potential employees with disabilities. Recruitment services include job analysis, job matching, and recruitment planning. 2. A disability information service, designed to help an employer accommodate disabled employees and/or help an employer meet state and federal regulations. Disability information services also include correcting accessibility problems, providing advice on how to provide accommodations for a specific employee, and providing insight into how the employer can comply with federal and state disability laws. And 3, a productivity service, designed to help an employer make sure every employee is able to work as efficiently as possible. Productivity services include disability management, ergonomic assessments, and occupational health and safety advice. Educating employers on disability-related issues. Employment practices prohibited by the ADA. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, ADA, was implemented to prevent discrimination against individuals with disabilities. The ADA makes it unlawful for an employer to base hiring decisions or any decision related to employment, e.g. pay rate and benefits, on disability factors. The ADA requires any employer covered by the ADA to make sure individuals with disabilities have equal opportunity to apply for jobs and work in jobs for which they are qualified, have equal opportunity to be promoted once they are working, have equal access to benefits and privileges of employment that are offered to other employees, such as employer-provided health care, and are not harassed because of their disability. Educating and supporting employees on disability-related employment issues. The first step to educate an individual with disability on their employment rights is to be sure they know the rights and protections provided to them by the Americans with Disabilities Act and its subsequent amendments. Individuals seeking employment or newly hired individuals should be prepared on how to discuss and disclose their disability to employers and how to request and negotiate workplace accommodations. Counselors can use the Job Accommodation Network to share information with individuals or direct individuals to the Job Accommodation Network website to learn for themselves at their own pace. Additionally, individuals should be familiar with their rights as listed by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. The EEOC specializes in providing information related to discrimination in the workplace. If an individual faces discrimination in their workplace, a rehabilitation counselor may be asked to help file a discrimination claim or a discrimination lawsuit. Discrimination claims must be made within a specific window of time after the Discrimination Act occurs. If the individual is filing a claim in a state where the state or local law agency enforces anti-discrimination laws, the claim must be filed within 300 days. If the individual is filing a claim in a state where there is no state or local law agency that enforces anti-discrimination laws, the claim must be filed within 180 days. If claims are not filed within the specific window of time, the EEOC will not investigate the claim. A discrimination lawsuit. In order to file a discrimination lawsuit, an individual must file a discrimination claim with the EEOC within the specific time windows discussed previously. If the EEOC investigates and finds acts of unlawful discrimination that corroborate the claim, they will first attempt to reach a settlement with the individual's employer. If a settlement cannot be reached, the EEOC will file a lawsuit against the employer on behalf of the individual. If the EEOC investigates the claim and decides there is not enough evidence to prove discrimination, the EEOC will notify the individual and inform them that they have 90 days to file a personal lawsuit if they want. If the individual does not file a lawsuit within 90 days after being notified, they forfeit their right to file any lawsuit related to the specific act as described in the discrimination complaint. Module 8.2, Employment Selection and Retention, Diversity, and Marketing Strategies. Topics covered in this review page are human resource practice, diversity in the workplace, and workplace supports for people with disabilities, demand-side employment issues related to hiring and retention, and marketing strategies and techniques for rehabilitation services. Human resource practice, diversity in the workplace, and workplace supports for people with disabilities. Employers and human resource personnel must be especially mindful of their pre-employment tests and interview questions, as poorly designed written test questions or interview questions can result in a discrimination lawsuit. Employers cannot inquire information related to an individual's disability status, medical history, previous injuries, or anything else that may indicate disability. Employers and human resource department personnel should utilize specific steps within the hiring process to ensure that they are observing all laws and increase the likelihood of employee retention. These employment practices are recruitment, encouraging potential employees to seek employment at the employer's business. Recruitment typically focuses on advertising, job announcements, and other techniques to advertise the benefits and pay rates associated with the position. Screening, reducing the number of those who applied for the position down to those who are qualified for the position. Screening typically focuses on reviewing applications, conducting interviews, checking references, and other techniques used to determine if the individual is qualified for the position. Selection, choosing the best candidate for the position. Selection typically occurs through assessing the group of people who were screened in the previous steps and selecting the most qualified candidate from that pool of individuals. Orientation, teaching an employee job position responsibilities, how to perform job tasks, behavior expectations, and other duties associated with the job position. Orientation can be performed with handbooks, facility tours, mentorship, employee training programs, and more. Career development, helping an employee further their career and advance within the company. Career development typically involves the employer offering resources to the employee, such as counseling, educational programs, job matching, mentorship opportunities, or training programs. Employee support, making sure an employee continues to perform as effectively as possible in their position. Employee support may consist of counseling, incentives programs, orientation programs, outside support services, and training programs designed to help the employee perform tasks required of their position. Diversity in the workplace, more than skin color. Often, disability is left out of the diversity conversation in the workplace, as employers tend to focus on skin color and forget other forms of diversity. Whenever conducting discussions with employers, rehabilitation counselors should encourage employers to review their Equal Employment Opportunity Statement and diversity training materials to check they include disabilities as a form of diversity and do not focus solely on skin color or ethnicity. Additionally, employers should be encouraged to examine their workplace decor and include images that feature employees of various ability status, as well as examining major points of entry and movement to ensure their workplace is an accessible environment. Workplace supports. When hiring an individual with a disability, employers may need to provide workplace supports to ensure the employee can be successful in performing job tasks. Workplace supports are usually assessed and provided through the Human Resource Department and can include employee assistance programs, job modification, assistive technology, or any of the supports described in Topic 6.3. Demand-side employment issues related to hiring and retention. Demand-side job development is a counselor's attempt to encourage an employer to hire more individuals with disabilities. Counselors explain that employer will have access to a larger pool of applicants if they are better equipped to accommodate disabilities and are more likely to convince employers to develop positions for individuals with disabilities or implement accommodation changes to their workplace if the counselor agrees to help develop the positions or recommend specific accommodations to implement. Employers may need to work with counselors to determine necessary job modifications, job restructurings, job carvings, or job creation. Again, these demand-side changes are discussed in Topic 6.3. Job retention is an employee's ability to keep their job and an employer's ability to keep their employee. Job retention is heavily related to successful work adjustment, as both the employer and employee must be satisfied in order to achieve job retention. Successful work adjustment is observed through job satisfaction and job satisfactoriness. Job satisfaction results when employees feel their position satisfies their needs, values, and interests. Job satisfactoriness results when employers feel the employee adequately performs their job tasks and responsibilities. Marketing strategies and techniques for rehabilitation services. The most important aspect for rehabilitation counselors trying to market rehabilitation services is to gather as much information as possible. Counselors must be prepared to answer any questions employers may have and should be well versed in rehabilitation services, terminology, and concepts that may apply to the potential employer's interest. Additionally, counselors should be familiar with the costs associated with rehabilitation services and be prepared to address questions from the potential employer. When marketing to possible employers, there are 3 main steps that should be followed. 1. The counselor should identify specific skills and services to be marketed. Understanding the individual's strengths and skills will help guide the counselor in identifying potential employment areas. 2. The counselor should choose a specific market in which to market the skills previously identified. Building relationships with employers and identifying the specific services that employers need will be useful in preparing the consumer to apply for a job position. 3. The counselor should develop a marketing strategy to convey the benefits of skills and services to the employers of that particular market. There are 4 steps counselors should take when designing a marketing strategy. 1. Perform a market analysis or market survey to identify employer needs. 2. Design a marketing plan that establishes a basic procedure to use when building relationships with employers. This marketing plan should include specific goals and a list of services the counselor can offer to the employer. 3. Evaluate the services the counselor is offering and the area they are offering those services in order to identify the price that should be charged for services. And 4, design a strategy that promotes the benefits of vocational counseling services and apply those benefits to as much of the target employment market as possible. The 2 most common methods of marketing rehabilitation services are advertising and networking. Advertising is any direct or indirect communication designed to promote the counselor's services. Advertising can take many forms, including billboards, brochures, pamphlets, mail, television commercials, word-of-mouth referrals, etc. Networking is any direct or indirect relationship with a person or an organization that may help the counselor promote their services and/or locate new clients. Networking can include relationships with clients, doctors, employers, hospitals, physical therapists, rehabilitation centers, and more.